that Buffalo beat, of course, the Miami Dolphins with Tua, Mike McDaniel, the head coach. They've been getting their flowers so far this year. Is Mike McDaniel one of the best coaches in football? And Tua is the MVP frontrunner, through 3 weeks. Tyreek Hill's obviously been spectacular. Jalen Waddle was hurt, but when he's been healthy, he's been good. Devon A-Chain, the running back, the rookie, he's been good as well. So they've been getting their flowers, and they deserve them. 70-20 is a throttling, right? That they deserve to get their praises. But here's my concern, and here's what becomes really fascinating when you look at the Dolphins, is they're really good right now, and so they picked up Tua's fifth-year option for next year. He'll get like $23 million, right? None of it, particularly guaranteed. Actually, all of it guaranteed, right? So you're going to have to pay him, which is weird because he's not guaranteed to play, right? Because of his injury history. Is he going to be healthy? Hopefully, right? Hopefully he's healthy. But we don't know that. And so here's what's interesting. If he plays really well, because I would say even though they lost, he played pretty well. Do you sign him long term? Right? Because you go look at Tua against, the Bears and the Broncos and even the Chargers, who yes, technically are a playoff team. Last year were a playoff team, projected playoff team this year, although they've started slow. They don't have a good defense, right? You look at him against bad teams. He's a fantastic quarterback, and most quarterbacks are against bad teams. That's kind of how it works, right? Like Kirk Cousins in the 1 o'clock window, fantastic. Kirk Cousins in prime time at Philadelphia, not so good, right? So it makes sense. It's not just Tua that has this problem. But I'm looking at his his record and his stats against playoff teams. He's played in 14 games in his young career against teams that made the playoffs that year, or I guess this year because we don't know who made the playoffs yet. That made the playoffs last year, right? So the Chargers and the Bills. He's 6-8, so he's a sub 500 quarterback. He's completing 59% of his throws. He's got 22 touchdowns to 13 picks. Good, not great. Good, not special, and an 87 passer rating. That's let me try to find somebody to kind of put that in. That's very Baker Mayfield-esque, right? Very, very Baker Mayfield-esque. Very early career Jared Goff-esque. Jared Goff's gotten better now that with age, like most quarterbacks do. But that's very, very Baker Mayfield. And so the question is, do you pay Tua the big money, right? Because he came in the draft class with Justin Herbert, who obviously got big money. And he's won more than Justin Herbert, although Herbert been to the playoffs, had more playoff success, but Tua's won more games than Justin Herbert. Interesting. What about Joe Burrow? Well, Joe Burrow's been to a Super Bowl, but he got huge money. So now you look, it's like, so what if Tua, and this is completely hypothetical, right? Obviously they didn't look good this weekend, but they're going to win 10 more games probably. At least 9 more games. They're going to finish with 12 or 13 wins. What if they make a playoff run? And Tua's healthy. Tua plays well. Again, didn't play great on Sunday, but what if he keeps playing pretty well? And he leads you to, let's say he gets you to the AFC Championship game, looks good, they lose a close one in Arrowhead. What do you do? Do you pay him? Because now it brings up the question, even at Tua's quote-unquote peak, which, say he's at his peak the rest of this year, what is he, like the 6th most talented quarterback in the AFC alone? We could talk about productivity. That's a different conversation. Let's go just pure talent. Mahomes is better. Herbert's better. Lamar's better. I would argue Joe Burrow's better. I think he's got a stronger arm. He's got a little bit more wiggle. Josh Allen's clearly more talented. Anthony Richardson's raw as all hell, but he's probably more talented. I mean, he's 6'5", 250. Moves like a DB. He's got a rocket arm. Trevor Lawrence is probably more talented. So, I mean, that's at best the 7th or 8th best quarterback from a talent perspective in the AFC. Again, we could talk about productivity all day long, because I would argue he's probably like the 4th or 5th most productive quarterback in the AFC. But from a pure talent standpoint, that means that if you sign Tua, say you sign him for 4 years, I don't even know. Let's go Daniel Jones level contract, 4 for 160, right? 4 for 160. I think he's better than Daniel Jones, but let's say 4 for 160, injury concerns, smaller, tougher AFC, right? 4 for 160. Are you going into say you make the playoffs 3 out of those 4 years, are you going into every one of those playoff games with the less talented quarterback? I would argue yes. Production is really, really important in the regular season. And that's why Kirk Cousins is going to keep getting contracts. And that's why Tua will probably get a contract from somebody, because you got to win games in the regular season. But at the end of the day, are you going to go into playoff games with Tua saying, we have the second best quarterback on the field today? Most likely, yes. And production drops off in the playoffs in terms of how much it matters. Single game, what can you do for these, 60 minutes? What can you do? Talent, leave it all out there. Over the season, or over the course of the season, that production doesn't matter as much in that single game. It's, hey, can you go make a play 3rd and 9? Go do it. Josh Allen does. Justin Herbert does. Patrick Mahomes does. Lamar Jackson does. Like, those guys have the talent to go do it. Tua, it's, do we have the right play call? Is it the right play call for that defense? Do we have the right personnel on the field? Can Tyreek Hill get free? Can Jalen Waddle stretch the defense? It's all, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter with Justin Herbert. It's, hey, 32nd best offensive line. Go win 9 games. And he did. So it's like, he's got the talent to go do it. Mahomes has the talent to go do it. Tua does not. And so I think it's interesting because I like Tua. He's super productive. He's going to win you a ton of games. With that system, Tua's perfect for that system. The question is, when you sign him, do you have somebody that can compete in the AFC? It's a great question. I don't know. I don't have the answer. I would lean towards no. But what do you do? It's hard to sit there and be like, wow, really productive. If he's healthy, he's going to win at least 10 or 11 games a year. It's hard to let that walk. I'm not saying this is a black and white answer. I just think it's very, very interesting. Because if he plays well, it's going to be really hard to not sign him. But if you do sign him, are you going to be stuck in this Kirk Cousins quarterback purgatory level that we've seen so many teams get into?
Yeah, and not to mention that if you do sign him, the supporting cast that's around him is going to start dwindling away. You can't afford to pay everybody, and I think, like you were saying, the supporting cast and all the other players on that team directly contribute to Tua's success.
Oh, he needs those speedsters.
Oh, 100%
right? He
does.
needs a good run game.
So if you take that stuff away and he doesn't have all of those toys to play with, I think things get a little bleak in Miami. He seems like he's definitely more of a trailer than a truck. He's not the guy that's going to pull you anywhere and be able to overcome bad circumstances like that. He's going to need those players in his bag for sure. The question of him being signed is interesting.
It's almost like if he keeps playing. Like, I'm not saying you're rooting for him to not play well, but if he plays well and then goes into the 5th-year option next year and also plays well,
it makes it tough because
what do you do? What do you do?
Because you know how hard it is to find even a decent quarterback in this league.
And he's
find somebody that's going to win.
Certainly decent. He's a top 10 quarterback right now.
It's hard to explain to a fan base and to an ownership group hey, we know we've been winning and have had some success with this guy recently, but we feel he's not going to win us a Super Bowl. Therefore, we need to move on. It makes sense when it's cut and dry, when you can say it like that, but to sell that to a fan base and say, hey, let's possibly go back to more years of sucking and losing every year because we don't have a good quarterback. And you have to go back into that quarterback carousel where you're just trying to find the right guy.
So let me throw an idea out to you then. Obviously, they got Tua for next year. Not this draft, but the draft after. What if you just go do a San Francisco? This is like a carbon copy of San Francisco, except San Francisco is built on more power. This is built on more speed. Very similar system. Mike McDaniels is similar to coach. Tua is very similar to Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
Or is he more similar to Jimmy Garoppolo, and they go find their Brock Purdy next draft?
I mean,
restart the quarterback contract, get back to a cheaper quarterback contract, keep the supporting cast, and let Mike McDaniel make that 6th-round rookie really good.
Well, it makes sense, too, especially if you could trade Tua even at some point during the season. That way...
Is Tua the same... Is Tua the Jimmy Garoppolo... Is Miami's version of Jimmy Garoppolo, where Jimmy held down the fort, won a lot of games. Hell, he got him to a Super Bowl.
And then they said, I think Jimmy was better against big teams.
Probably. But then you said, hey, Jimmy, thank you for your service. We're going to go with Brock. Well, actually, we're going to go with Trey, and then Trey broke his leg. So it's, hey, we're going to go with Brock. But you get the point.
No, yeah. I mean, you make a damn good point. I think it could be, and you can draw a lot of parallels and comparisons to those two. Either way, it's going to be interesting how it shakes out there in Miami. All right, guys.